Welcome, everybody, to Midday Magazine for this Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Have your host, James, here, and I am joined right now by our great friend, David Farmbrough. He is, of course, a broker, owner, realtor here in our area, and we are talking today Realty Radio with David Farmbrough. David, good to have you with us.
It's wonderful to be with you, James.
Always enjoy our conversations. I was actually talking with Melissa earlier about how just interesting real estate is to me and how it's kind of a bellwether with our economy and so many other things. One of the things that it is also, unfortunately, a bellwether for is scams and a hustle, if you will. What we're going to focus on today is scams in real estate field and how an experienced realtor can help protect you from these things. David, in your experience in this industry, how early into it did you come across scams and run into this problem?
Well, if I go back to my days when I worked in law in London, I started off very early coming across things like this. And it just takes a little bit of, detective know-how to sort of work out when something doesn't smell right. You know, you see something, and the first thing I remember when I was about 18 years old, I had these two clients approach me, about 3 or 4 months apart, wanting to buy property. And then I realized that one of their names was an anagram of the other one's name.
Man.
And I thought, what are the chances? And it just didn't make sense. So I went to talk to the person who referred them to me, and suddenly both those clients disappeared.
Yeah.
Because it was obviously some sort of front. The other thing that I had that we wouldn't deal with nowadays at all was we used to have people bring in large amounts of cash. And in those days, I'm talking about probably before you were born, the 1980s, we had people coming in to pay their down payment, which is what we use in England as earnest money, and they would come in with a shopping bag, a grocery bag, with cash in it. And it would be the equivalent of $10,000 in cash. And in those days, we would just count it again, give them a receipt, take it to the bank. The bank wouldn't question it. But that all changed with a lot of the problems we've been having with things like drugs and international terrorism. Now, the majority of law firms and real estate offices don't take cash for anything. They would require the money to be paid into the bank, and then the bank has to do its due diligence, and the bank in a lot of cases won't accept cash without a clear explanation of where it's come from. So fraud is all around, and it's with us all the time, and you have to be really careful.
I appreciate the story there, just out of interest, but also it speaks to what we're getting into here. And then this is not a new problem. This has been around for a long time. Scams have always been an issue. It's just scammers kind of adapting to modern times and going a more of a tech route in recent decades when it comes to a lot of this.
Absolutely. One of the most common scams is what we call a wire fraud. And that will be when you have someone who's going through the process of doing a house purchase. There's a lot of confusing things to navigate, like all the payments that people have to make. So they have to make payments of their earnest money. They have to make a payment on closing. And sometimes there are payments during the process, like just paying your home inspector for doing his work. Now, unfortunately, these scammers have got wise to this, and they will send out thousands and thousands of emails to people saying, here's your home inspection invoice, $400. Click here to pay. Yeah. Now, they're probably sending it to 10,000 people who haven't had a home inspection and aren't buying a house. They don't care, because the person sees that, thinks, delete, put in the junk folder, that's it. But they'll probably hit a few hundred people who maybe are in the process of buying a house. Some of the people won't question things, and they'll just click on pay and think, right, I've paid that. And then the real home inspector says, hang on a minute, I haven't received my payment. And they've realized they've been swindled out of $400. And then in the meantime, there's somebody sitting in a boiler room, as they call them, where they run these scams from in a foreign country, and they've just raked in maybe 10 people have clicked on paying $400, so they've just got $4,000 for just a little bit of scamming.
I've been very clear and honest with the audience and our guests. I come from the other side of the tracks. I know a good hustle. I grew up with it. I've seen it my whole life. On this side of the tracks now, I feel I'm able to kind of give some insight sometimes when it comes to certain things. And when it comes to any hustle, whether we're talking real estate or any other industry, there's a couple of key things I think to keep in mind. And one of them David hit on right away. Your instincts, your gut. More times than not, your gut is going to tell you when something is wrong. It's not 100% accurate, but your fight or flight mechanism that we got in our brains is still there. It's just evolved a little bit. But that gut instinct, the same one that saved us and told us a dinosaur is coming, is the same one that tells us that, hey, this email don't look right. It doesn't say .org, it says .o, or there's one letter different or something like that. There are little things that you can see that don't feel right, and you should follow that instinct. Again, it's not always 100% accurate, but I do think it's something good to keep in mind when we're talking about this. And keeping in mind as well that there are so many people out there on the other side of this that are working to help you and defeat scammers. People like David that are informed, that are up to date on these things.
Yeah, and I would say that, here in Wisconsin Rapids, we've got a great load of local realtors, all very ethical, experienced, honest people who will be able to take care of you and make sure you don't fall into some of those traps. The other thing, of course, which is the big one with those wire fraud scams, is they tell people to send the balance of their purchase money somewhere, and that could be 20,000, 50,000, or if you're a cash buyer, it could be the whole value of the house. The important thing to do is, as you say, trust your instinct, but also slow down. You don't need to do something straight away. You can just stop, make a phone call your realtor and say, hey, I've just been asked to send this money. Is this correct? And your realtor will know. They'll know the way that these things are done. And he or she will be able to say, actually, that is how the title company does it. But the title company will probably be calling you as well to reassure you that this is genuine.
David, what are some other examples of the type of scams that can exist in this industry?
Well, I had one just earlier this year, funnily enough. I had somebody come to me and tell me they wanted to sell a piece of recreational land in Rome, and it was a very nice piece of land. I went down to see it. As so often happens, people selling recreational land are out of state. So he said he wouldn't be meeting me, but I would go down and take a look at the land. Well, I went and took a look at the land, and it had two very nice RVs on it, and it had a sign with the family name at the front. And I thought, this doesn't look like somebody's going to be selling it and moving away anytime soon. So I did my due diligence. I did a valuation, and I came back to the person. I thought, well, if it's genuine, this is where the instinct comes in. If it's genuine, he's gonna perhaps question the valuation and say, but surely the prices in Rome will be double what they were last year because of the Sand Valley Golf Club. But no, he just was happy to accept it and said, sure, put it on the market. So at that point, I looked up the address of the registered owner in the tax register, and I sent them an old-fashioned paper letter. Nice. A week later, I got a phone call from the owner saying, no, I am not selling this piece of land, and thank you very much for writing to me. And during that week, I'd been sort of delaying the seller and saying, I haven't quite got the documents ready for you to sign. Right. So when I heard from the landowner, I put in a call to the Rome police and reported it. So hopefully that person will be facing the consequences.
Nicely done. And I really, really do appreciate the behind the look of the curtain on that, because people that are in those situations have a better understanding now of what to look out for, but also how impactful going to a good person can it be, and how a trusted realtor can be. I do think it's noteworthy what you said, too, about your colleagues, not just at Colwell, but in the industry itself. One of the earliest things I learned from JR in talking about this is how much of a reputation business realty is. And how you can tell the good realtors in many ways because they're still doing it. Most people cannot stay in this business if you are not, being honorable and being good at and treating people right.
That's absolutely right, because we have to deal with our fellow colleagues, our colleague realtors all the time. And, we're trying to work with them to get something done. We're trying to get a house sold, usually.
It's the best, better for our community. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, David. I got very excited about that because it doesn't really happen in many industries. And I think that I'm not saying it's not cutthroat and there isn't some competition here or there or anything, but I really do respect that about the real estate industry where it's so much about the people.
Yeah, that's true. And I felt very grateful when I first started working in realty here in Wisconsin that even from 2018, I was the new boy. They were so welcoming. They were kind. And nobody said, hey, we don't need another realtor. They were friendly, and they extended to me the same courtesies that I will always extend to any new realtor. So if I'm dealing with someone, it's their first week, I'm not going to take advantage of them. I'm going to help them and do what I can to make them feel welcome.
We're speaking with David Farmbrough on Realty Radio. David, we've been talking about types of scams, kind of giving people a bit of a heads up, a warning on some of these. One of the ones that I don't know much about, but I've heard, is the bait and switch offers. What is that?
Well, that's a little bit more unusual, and I haven't seen it happening so much in our area. But what that is there's usually an unrealistically low-priced property, which is made to sort of lure people in. Someone arranges with a realtor to see the property, and then the realtor takes them and says, well, sorry, that one's gone, but here's another one that you might like. And of course, it's more money and not such a good deal. Now, again, I don't see that happening here, and basically because our realtors are all honest. Right. So I think also you might find that happening when someone is selling without using a realtor. So, if they've just got a property for sale by owner, maybe on the internet somewhere, it may be that would be more likely to happen there.
What about title and deed fraud? That seems like another one that, especially in this day and age, could be very easy to manipulate and to be aware of.
Right. And again, we have our professional colleagues in the title companies to thank for rooting out a lot of this sort of thing, because they are extremely good at being careful on your behalf. But there are some things where people will forge somebody's signature, put a property in their name, and then they will take out a loan on it. Now, if you don't have a title company working for you, if you try and do it yourself, then you might find that you're buying something which isn't registered in the name of the real owner. And you might find that when you try and register it in your name, you can't, because somebody else has already done that.
And there's many ways to kind of weed that out a little bit, especially with like a clerk of courts or some other situations that you can go to.
Right, yes, and using professionals is the way to do it. So I work with a network of title companies. We have 3 or 4 very good ones in Wisconsin Rapids. They are all trustworthy, all professional, and it's great to deal with them because you know that they're going to be covering all these things. So even if there's something that they can't find out, they will tell you, and they'll say, oh, we may have a day or two's delay while we sort this out. They even have to deal with weird stuff like the titles to mobile homes, which you wouldn't even think of. If you're maybe buying one, it's registered in a different way from a title to a piece of land.
I remember back in grade school, I collected cards, and I really wanted this Ken Griffey Jr. card. I really, really, really wanted it, and I actually found a kid in school that was going to trade me his, and all he wanted for it was this Jim Gantner card I had, and I didn't know if he was just a big Brewer fan or what it was, but it didn't seem right to me. It didn't seem like a fair trade, and I remember I want to see the card first, and he wouldn't let me see the card. He'd just show it to me, wouldn't let me hold it, and I didn't like that, so I called the deal off, and I remember, I don't know what it was later, this kid found somebody else that made the trade. And on the back of the card was a big scratch.
Oh.
And so this was part of the reason why he wouldn't let me hold it or anything. And I remember thinking and holding on to this story many times in life going forward that if it offer seems too good to be true, probably worth digging into it a little bit. And this is kind of where we wrap up as far as for buyers and scams to look out for is the too good to be true deals.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll have something where people use the old sales technique. Well, you got to buy this quickly, or someone else is going to get it before you. So this might be a situation where somebody is marketing a property and they say, we only want to have an offer with no home inspection. Now, it's obvious that sellers don't want buyers to have home inspections, and that can be just because they want to avoid hassle. Every home inspection shows something, and it could be something minor or it could be something serious. Now, if somebody is trying to cover up something serious, that might be when they would be, and this is the seller I'm talking about, not the realtor. The seller might be saying, well, we're only going to be looking at offers which don't have an inspection contingency. So things like that, we just want to try and avoid. And your realtor will almost certainly be saying to you, well, you really should have a home inspection. Once in a while, buyers decide to proceed without them. For example, if it's a very competitive offer situation. But almost always, realtors will be advising them they should have a home inspection.
David, we wanted to touch on renters as well. Can we do that if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. The rental market is very different from how it was even 10 years ago, because the vast majority of the time these days, renters do not use realtors to market, landlords do not use realtors to market property for rent. Most of it goes through a small handful of websites, places like Zillow, apartments.com, Facebook Marketplace, and the old favourite Craigslist. Now, that's okay as far as it goes. I understand they want to obviously save the cost of using a realtor, and people who want to rent can sometimes find it easier to search online than to call a realtor and having them work for them on that. So that's all fine. One of the problems you come into is that there are some people who don't have a property to rent, but they pretend that they do. And it's relatively simple to fake. I had it happen a couple of years ago. I was representing someone selling a property, and the listing was out there, it was public, and somebody stole all the pictures that I'd taken of that property and made a fake rental property post on Craigslist. So somebody called me, they said, I saw the property on Craigslist, how much a month do they want for it, or something like that? And I said, well, it's for sale, it's not for rent. And they said, but I saw it on Craigslist. So I called the owner and said, are you trying to rent this out as well? And he said, no, this is nothing to do with me. And so we went down the usual path. We reported it to Craigslist, and I told the prospective renter that they should be very careful. Apparently what people do is they say, oh, sorry, I can't show you into the house at the moment. Or sometimes they do get into the house if someone's left it unlocked or left a key not properly secured, and they will take a rental deposit and maybe the first month's rent for someone from someone, and then that person comes back with their U-Haul expecting to be moved in, and it can't happen.
It's important to, no matter what, buyer, seller, renter, one of the above, reaching out and finding out more information about these things beforehand is always going to help you out. And you got people like David out there that can help you with that. Before we wrap up, David, wanted to make some time for your good cause that you have for us.
Right. And really, I should have maybe done it a different way, because I had my good cause of the month Special Olympics in January, because I was raising money for the Polar Plunge. But the actual jump was on the 1st of February, so I could have done that as February. But actually, that's my January good cause, and thanks to all the people who kindly sponsored me, I did get $1,200 for the Polar Plunge, for Special Olympics, and I got very wet and very cold. So I'm going to do something different next year, like the chicken thing.
You did it once, though. That's what counts.
I've done it 3 times now.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And before that, I used to photograph it when I worked at a radio station and a newspaper. I was their photographer, that was all fun too. This month, for my good cause of the month, I'm putting something out there on Facebook today because I want people to help me. I want people to recommend a good cause of the month for Rapids Homes to support in February. So I'm going to leave it up to the listeners. If they want to go to my Facebook page, it's just David Farmbrough Realtor. They can find me there, and they can comment on the post that I've put out saying who will be my good cause of the month for February.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. I think that you're going to get some great recommendations, and there's going to be, if anything, you might have your next couple lined up because you're going to get some good suggestions.
True. We do have some very good causes here in Rapids, and some very generous, community-minded people.
And we've got people out there too that hearing a conversation like we just had, and may have come into it without questions, but maybe leaving with questions. So, David, if people want to reach out, they want to find out a little bit more about some of the things we talked about today, how can they reach you?
Absolute easiest way to get to me is to text me on 715-323-8594. They can find all about me and Rapids Homes on my website, which is rapidshomes.com, very easy, or they can see my Facebook page.
And I encourage you to do that, and go ahead and go back and listen to some of the interviews we've had with David in the past, and certainly be listening next month, because David will be with us every month going forward, as we have Realty Radio every month. And looking forward to the next time already, David. This is a great conversation. Appreciate what you're doing for the community, bringing the information that you are to this, and certainly the work that you're doing in the real estate industry. Keep up the great stuff, man. Be safe out there, and we'll talk again next month.
Thank you, James. I love it. I love coming here, and I love my job.
We'll talk again real soon, and we'll talk to you real soon with more Midday Magazine right here at 97.5 FM, 1320 AM, WFHR. We are locally grown radio.